Ever since Vice President Kamala Harris ascended to the top of the Democratic presidential ticket last month, Donald Trump supporters have called her a Jezebel and someone who slept her way to the top. At a rally in Michigan, Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, insinuated that Harris was some sort of welfare queen. And today, Vance posted this video from a 2007 Miss Teen USA pageant with the caption, "I have gotten a hold of the full Kamala Harris CNN interview." Not to be outdone, Donald Trump amplified the racist, sexist attacks this week, reposting this photo, which features Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton, and a lewd caption, "Not suitable for this program." Joining me now is Angela Rye, former executive director and general counsel to the Congressional Black Caucus and a co-host of the fantastic Native Land podcast. Angela, I'm so glad to have you here. This is such an important conversation. We talk about misogyny and sexism all the time. We talk about it in the context of Donald Trump. But let's be frank. When it comes to women of color, there's a particular vitriol that is saved for women of color by people like Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and other Republicans.
Yeah, I think it's not even restricted to party, Katie. I think you as a woman of color, you as an attorney of color, you certainly have seen it. You know, it doesn't even matter. We don't even have to say across the aisle, both sides of the aisle. It is a nonpartisan issue, racism and sexism in this country. That is the reason why a Kimberly Crenshaw could coin a term intersectionality and it be resonant. The reality of it is there are a lot of folks that create terms out of something as beautiful as diversity, equity, and inclusion and change it to mean something like didn't earn it, despite the fact that many of them didn't earn it either. They earned it on our backs and off of trust funds and off of legacy admissions and all of the things that help to level a playing field on a field they should never be able to play on themselves. And what we also know about Kamala Harris in particular is she is by far the most qualified person to ever run for president. If folks have some facts that they like to hand to us to show us why what I'm saying isn't true, I'd love to see them. This is someone who won her district attorney's race. This is someone who won her her attorney general's race in the state of California. This is someone who ran again statewide in California as the United States Senator of California. She won that. And she didn't win her 2020 election bid, but she was so great of a candidate that Joe Biden couldn't find a better running mate. And so what we have to come to terms with is the fact that in this country, the demographics will continue to change. And there are people who have had to fight for everything they've ever obtained in this life. And because they've had to fight in that way, they are formidable opponents. The only thing that Donald Trump and J.D. Vance can attack is Kamala Harris's appearance, is questioning how she got to the top. It was by winning and fighting, right? It's everything about her is questioned because they cannot go for qualifications. So instead they go to character, they go to appearance, and they go to promiscuity, which is textbook sexism.
You know, Angela, to talk about this compare and contrast, in 2016, Donald Trump, when he got busted for that Access Hollywood video, said, "Oh, this is just locker room talk. This is how people talk in locker room." And yet, interestingly, we actually have a coach, a former football coach, who spent years in a locker room, in Tim Walz, and he's not talking about women. He's not talking about women like that at all. This has to resonate, doesn't it, Angela, not for just the women of the United States, but the men who are allies and advocates and that speak for us in rooms that we're not in. This has to resonate to see that there's an option available to Americans in November where we don't have to have the disgusting pig of Donald Trump back in the Oval Office.
Yeah, I think what is really most important is for people to have those opportunities to check themselves, check their language, check how they're thinking, even if they don't say the thing out loud. So whether we're talking about a coach, Tim Walz, now VP candidate Tim Walz, or we're talking about folks who know, again, potty mouths are not a partisan issue, Katie. I think we cannot lie to the American people about that. We have people probably in our respective friend groups where we're like, hey, you might not want to say that. Sometimes, Katie, I have to say, Angela, you might not want to say that. Right? There's just those moments. And I think that what we've got to be very clear about is there's no place for the types of language, for the types of imagery, for the types of caricature making that in our political process. There is way too much on the line. We should not let J.D. Vance and Donald Trump trivialize this process. We should not allow them. If you have daughters at home, if you've got nieces, goddaughters, little cousins, a sister, a mom, we all got moms. Don't let them speak about women in this way, right? If you have a queen in your life, make sure that they are talking about queens. If we're all standing together, there should be a certain way that we treat the women in our lives. And it should not look or be reflected like the way in which Donald Trump has spoken about women. And this is not new for him. He's been doing this long before he ever ran for office in 2016. It wasn't Hillary Clinton that brought it out of him. This is how he's been treating women his entire adult life, like property. And that is something that he learned from, I believe, his elders and the folks, his ancestors, right? Like, this is what they believe, that women were chattel, that Black people were chattel. So this is what he's doing.